So you can't always just rely on therapy, though. You really need to start incorporating a practice to manage your emotions and take care of yourself on a daily basis. So my next hack is to find ways to incorporate routine self-care into your life. I don't just mean like taking a bubble bath. This isn't an
Okay. That's what I was
Instagram
gonna
fix,
ask. I'm
okay?
like, a lot of people are like self-care, like, oh, I get self-care. Our husband watches the kids and I take a shower. I'm like, honey, that ain't
No,
self-care.
no,
That's
that's
like,
just bathing. That's
so
just basic
that's,
hygiene.
well, yeah.
Okay.
So
And I'm
let's,
not saying certain things like wouldn't be self-care.
well, for sure.
Because
Like, and I've gone through
really,
time frames where I've struggled with taking
yeah,
a shower.
right,
But
fair.
how, when you, I guess just for me, because as we discussed offline, like you also are a little more advanced in your self-care routine, or maybe we'll find as you go through yours, I'm actually doing things that I didn't realize were.
So maybe, and that's what I was going to say, is maybe it's because I had to stop and start prioritizing this in my life. So I've just, thought about it more. Maybe you're just more integrated in your approach. And maybe in some ways a little crunchier than most people. I will admit that. But it was a development out of necessity. This is not something that came natural to me. Okay. So routine self-care. What do I mean? So I mean on a regular basis, working on self-trust and self-love. So it's number one, it's hard to trust a body when all you can perceive is that it seems to fail you all the time, but you're
Oh,
not
now we're
broken.
gonna have tears. Okay. All right, sorry, keep talking.
It's okay if you do.
Keep talking.
It's hard. This is hard stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Your intuition is not wrong. Listen to your body and embody confidence in yourself. You are valid even before being given a diagnosis. Don't obsess over your health. Balance this with other passions and wellness pursuits. While it's tempting to spend hours and hours looking up EDS on the computer and doing lots of research or binging on all of our TikToks, as much as we would like the views,
R-
don't don't lose sight of who you were before you had to embark on this quest, okay? Embrace the person you're becoming through this because you will be different.
Yep.
And this gentle advice is from someone who has read and continues to read every single research study about connective tissue disorders and reads neuropsych medical publications for fun. Okay. Like that's okay, but balance it. Assess your boundaries. Create boundaries where maybe you didn't have some before to protect your energy. Okay. So like understand your changing
Oh,
ability.
I'm gonna interrupt you for 1 second. For the eldest child, the eldest daughters, um boundaries are these things where you say, if you want to engage in X activity with me, Y needs to happen otherwise not. Or you can something to that effect. And you're allowed to like say things like that. I recently learned this. Anyway,
So
carry on.
I'm also an eldest daughter and have some family trauma. We won't talk about it right now, but so I'm going to define boundaries.
Yeah,
You
she's
you
gonna
you
define it
touched on
better
it,
than
but
me.
I'm going to make it real clear to people if you don't understand what a boundary is. A lot of times people think that a boundary is about someone else's behavior. If they are doing something or behaving in a way or speaking to you a certain way, that's on them. What's on you is how you respond to it, right? So a boundary that's a true boundary and is healthy is saying something like, if you continue to speak to me in this way and yell at me, I'm going to end this conversation. And then when they continue yelling at you, you walk away. That is a boundary. Okay. So boundaries can be hard, they can also be subtle. Okay. Understand that you may need to reassess your daily life and priorities. For me, it is a big crash and burn. Okay. Including like, how you relate to others, how much you can do for others, in different arenas. I'm talking about, career work. I'm talking about volunteer activities,
I had a
your health
volunteering
pursuits.
problem for a long time,
We'll
several
talk about that
years.
someday. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's how yeah, so I finally was like, "Oh, I don't have to fix every
Yeah.
nonprofit organization that exists in my community." And so
Shelley
I
and I
don't.
also both had a pattern of like defining our health by some high physical achievement and try to be runners.
Yep.
And we eventually realized, wait, this is not so good for me. We had
No.
to redefine a boundary of what health and strength and endurance and loving your body means, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. It can be more subtle. It's not just those sticky relational things. It's also like how you define your life and how you operate. A big part of, self-care is being adaptable and understanding yourself and assessing those ways you define parts of your life. But also give yourself some grace. Give yourself some time and space and probably more than you think you need on a regular basis for emotional processing and feeling and releasing. It's okay to sit in the suck of it all because it really does suck sometimes. Just, like, don't stay there. And while media may have you think that self care is all about like those Instagrammable things, like the little bubble baths, mani pedis, or whatever, that's not what I mean. Okay. I mean, sit there and ask yourself, how do you show your mind, your soul, and your body that you love yourself? Shelley, what are some key self care practices that you do?
Okay. Well, now that you've taught me a lot about what the different types of self-care are, I actually well, I've incorporated things since this journey started, but I had previously been doing things that I didn't realize were at the time. And so,
This is an intuitive practice for Shelley, whereas I had to learn these things because I never took care of myself.
yeah. So something that I had done always before, and I didn't realize why it benefited me, was padding days on the front and back end of trips or vacations.
Okay.
And for me, I was always like, oh, it's because I get in this like fury. I get in this like I get hyped up and I need this extra time, right? Before and after. And like, okay, we know what that is now, right? That's like anxiety. But for
Let
me,
go
it
and
was,
let Shelley.
yeah, it's a little bit of let go and the Shelly going on there. You should have seen me yesterday before my daughter's party. That's well, that'll be like bonus content or something. But like,
You should
I
totally throw up a picture of the cake because I thought it was gorgeous.
oh, okay, I'll put a picture of the cake. And I did not make this cake. I used to
No, but it
make
was so pretty.
amazing cakes. I
Oh,
actually did.
and what I didn't tell you is, and I
Oh,
didn't send this to you, I tried making one of those rainbow cakes. When Evie was 3, we did a whole
yeah.
big rainbow party. Don't do it. Just pay for the
Just
baker to
yeah.
make a rainbow cake.
Yeah.
That's the other hack in this
I
episode.
also
Just
did
pay the
not
baker.
stress. I also because I generally don't like all those dyes in my
Yeah.
food. But I did not stress about it for this particular cake. I was like, "You know what?
Only poop is fun.
The beet juice is not gonna be the vibrant red." And so I just sucked it up and we ate all the colors. Now I'm learning that that was, like, my body I had already noticed kind of my body's patterns during these things, and so I intuitively added those things. But I started adding that to more things. So I took it, I was like, "Oh, this works when I go on a trip. What else does it work for?" And so I started adding and it's not always days, it's just chunks of time. So I've become more aware of transitions are not good for me. I
Buffer.
pad my buffer zone. So I've intuitively been adding my buffer zone and I've been increasing it. And now that I'm symptom tracking, I am mindful of how my buffer zone changes based on what's going on in my
I
body.
have to interrupt right here.
Go ahead.
I don't I don't regularly or hadn't regularly given myself buffers. And I really didn't become aware of it until I was a mother and I realized before Evelyn was, I realized what autism in girls was like and on any of
Right.
that. I would tell people she needs at like a buffer time to adapt. You need to tell
Yeah.
her ahead of time what to expect, and she'll be just fine. Otherwise, she can't handle the change. So I
S-
had built that into giving that to my child. That's so that just you gave me an idea. What
So,
you give to your child, give yourself the
yeah.
grace to do that for you.
Do you want to know why I probably intuitively was doing that for myself?
Yes.
Well, because if you listen to the previous episodes, you know that my son was diagnosed autistic in 2007. So that was 15 years ago. So I've already, like, in my life had been padding because of needs that he definitely had those needs, but other people in the family also had those needs. They just it wasn't
This is such
we
a mom thing.
it yeah. So oh, okay, so that's why so that's self-care. Another thing I started doing, and it was after I had run Ragnar, when I was like, I'm gonna be a runner and be yeah, let me fix my body. I'm gonna do this. I got a massage after, and the massage therapist was like, "Wow, you've got this tightness." He had remarked that, like, I had a lot of tightness. It seemed like I was overusing my muscles, and I was like, "Well, I'm training for this event." Well, I had decided after that event I was gonna do like a series of like get massages for like a few months in a row and see how that helped me, and with the same person so that I could get some good data, like if like it's actually beneficial. And it turns out that it was beneficial and it was helping me. And so I actually got into the wellness plan at the local massage place, and I get a monthly massage. I found that if I don't get some time outside every day, I feel a little bit off. Yesterday, when I was getting ready for the little garden party, and when I show pictures of the cake, I'll put up some pictures of the yard too. But we had this one weed kind of get into the flower meadow, and I didn't wear my garden gloves because I'm afraid of my garden gloves, because I left them outside and then spiders took over, and I am convinced there's a colony of spiders inside my gloves and they're just gonna go in the trash, or I'm gonna light them on fire until I get my new gloves. But so I was not wearing gloves, okay? And I was using this tool at first because I didn't want to bend over, but then I was like, no. And I just listened to my body, and I like got down on all fours, and I was like raking in the dirt, like pulling these weeds out. I had dirt in my and then I smelled like the earth. It was it was I was like, what is happening right now? It was
Okay.
good.
So have we talked about my obsession with the smell of dirt?
No, but now we're
No.
going
Okay.
to.
I'm not gonna hijack. Okay, so we're gonna take a little pause here, but
Yeah.
I really, really relate, and so I'm going to interrupt Shelley, and she was talking about the time in nature and getting in the dirt and all that. In spiritual practices, we call that like grounding, communing with nature, whatever you want to call it. A lot of humans, we just don't do this anymore.
Yeah.
I used to have this recurring dream of as a child that I was a tree. It's very weird.
Okay.
And I would smell the rain on the dirt. And it
Oh,
has
I
a
love the
word.
smell of
It's
rain.
called petrichor. And my favorite smells are the smell of dirt, petrichor, and like the smell of ozone. Like
I
it
love the smell of
gives me
ozone.
life. So one of my self-cares was I found a perfume that has those smells in it, and I have some essential oils that I put in that smell like that. And it
Ooh, you're
it like
giving me
takes me
ideas.
to that moment. So even if I can't go out there into the wet dirt, I can bring that sensory experience to me because it's like a safe grounding thing for me. But
Yeah.
yeah, the dirt under your fingernails. Okay,
Yeah,
go on.
so that was something I did that I realized, okay, I had previously spent more and more time outside, but that was the first time I really like got down on the ground and was like, oh, this is like it was almost like carnal. Cat therapy is good. I love my animals. I got, oh,
Mhm.
pretty kitty. I will like find either a new show or something to dive into. So like I'll
So like
find
a
some,
entertainment type thing. Yeah.
yeah, I'll just kind of try to find something to, I
So
don't know,
I struggle
that's
with
more of
attention.
distraction. That's not self-care.
Yeah. I struggle, well, not necessarily, unless it some some television I consider like great literature. Some music I consider distraction, but I consider Taylor Swift like a poet. It depends. Right?
Yeah, well that's music is big for me. So Muse actually just came out with a new album, so I've been really like
Yes. And it made me cry, but we're good.
it's good. It's good. I've been currently stimming on the song Compliance. Like there's this really cool like
Yeah. I know. I love it.
electro beat on that I just go
I didn't even know. And like I think you told me like the day or day after, and I listened to it and I was like, oh well, you could have put a warning label on this for me.
sorry. Sorry. But that's really I think I don't know because the that's that's all I can think of right now. And I bet when you tell me yours and then I'm gonna kind of go through and
Uh,
make
Can
notes.
I
But
can I
other
make
things
an
like
assumption based
yeah,
on what I know of you?
sure.
You are, to me, like you do take the time to like try to address the pains that you have in your body. Like you made a TikTok today or yesterday with all the little like tools that you have at your
That was
disposal
today. I was wearing this
today.
shirt.
Yeah.
I
But
was
also
feeling
like
cute, made a video, you know.
I think you design your life to be supportive in your environment. So like you have made choices about the people that you spend time with. You've made choices
Okay.
about, accepting things. Well, I can't work like this anymore. You 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 have okay. I haven't been to Shelly's house, but like we've seen bits and pieces because we talk on video and stuff.
Yeah.
You have like your home is yours, and it's like designed for you and your family in ways that like I maybe design my house maybe more aesthetically. Like I have spots and places that are comfy zones or whatever.
Right.
But you like really like your dining room, your kitchen, your like
Oh, you mean the room that's not a dining room, that's actually
yeah,
like a
like
lounge?
literally, yeah. Like
Yeah,
you
that's fair. Okay.
like I
Yeah.
think, oh, this is great. Like I want to be more like Shelly in that way. Yeah.
Oh, oh, that makes my heart happy. That what
Um,
TV character said that? You make my
I
heart
don't,
super happy.
but there's those okay, heart happy things. That's what it is.
Okay.
It's heart happy things.
Okay, so Pilates is on there for me too.
Yeah. Because okay, so Pilates feeds your body and your mind and all that in a way that
Hmm.
running was maybe not doing, right? So you found a
Yeah.
way that
Yes,
gives you
because
strength and yeah,
running, I never actually I mostly just did the running thing out of spite.
right? Like I'm gonna do this.
Yeah, like screw you, body. Like, what are you talking about? I can't run a half marathon. Watch me do this shit. And
I
then
did
I
it
would
to like
do it.
prove something. That
Yeah,
like
and like
prove
who
it
at
that
the
I
end of
could
the
do it.
day, my body was like, I'm
You
still
know
gonna
what?
fall apart, bitch. Like, it didn't care.
You- Maybe we
Shingles
don't
doesn't
have to push
care. It's like,
ourselves to that insane level of badassness to really be a badass. Like just saying.
but anyway, I so
Anyway,
now I listen. But yeah, for a long time, that's a new thing. The making the house my own. That's relatively new. I think that's the pandemic thing. That's being
yeah, yeah.
and what like and the diagnosis on top of that, I'm like, okay, I really am gonna embrace because I probably would have preferred all of this time to have a dining room that's more of like a lounge coffee bar or podcast area now this whole time than have some form
Okay.
like I didn't even want to register for China when we got married. And I'm gonna after I tell this, I'm gonna tell you a story about that just because I have to, and we can cut it, but we can save it for like a snippet. once I was here all the time and I got on TikTok and started seeing people doing things in their homes that made sense to them, like,
Mhm. Things you
why
never
am I
yeah.
not living in a home that makes sense to me?
Yeah.
And so I started doing that and it felt good. And it was, it my in-laws were visiting. There was a TikTok and I ended up making it friends only after because it was the first time they had sprung up on me that they hadn't sprung up on me. I knew they were coming. The notice that they were coming was a little short. But then the day that they were arriving, they actually arrived even earlier than they said. So I thought I
It just
had more.
wasn't enough of a buffer, and then they took the buffer.
Yeah, exactly. And so I rolled up to my house and saw their car on my street and I just kept driving. I was like, nope.
It's out.
And so that was self-care in hindsight. That was self-care. I was like, I recognized something and I was like, if I go in there knowing like I'm off, I'm off. I already know I'm off. They're here an hour and a half ahead of what they were supposed to be. They got here early. I was supposed to have time to come home from my thing and peace out and go do my other thing and not even see them. So it
And so
was
Shelley knew herself well enough to be able to have
that,
the insight to say, this is not going to go well.
yeah,
I'm going to make the choice that may not seem as socially acceptable.
yeah. And so I did. I drove away from my house. Fortunately, my bestie Carrie lives 6 doors down. So I like pulled up. Actually, I drove around for a little bit. And then I texted her and I was kind of like, hey, here's what happened. And she's like, okay, come on over. So I did that. The other thing that was helpful was I had an inn on the inside. Now, my husband would not have cared, but he was like entertaining his parents. I promise you, this is going to be about making the space yours. I promise you. My mom was here visiting also. So I was texting my mom. She's got me, right? So I text her. I was like, Mom, I saw their car there. I'm not doing, I don't know. I was like, you got to cover for me. Just tell them I'm still at Pilates, like, tell whatever, like, make some shit up. She's like, all right, I got you, but you owe me. So anyway, so this was shortly after this whole thing went down, was shortly after I had gotten rid of my dining room table and I got that new pull-up coffee table and I have the two love seats in here. It's like a different
Mhm. It's like the Friends coffee shop.
yeah, that's a little bit of the vibe I was going for,
Yeah.
just like
Chill, relax,
just a
loungy, comfy. Yeah.
chill, yeah, except
Gathering spot.
I
Yeah.
yeah. My mom was like, oh my gosh, I just realized they might listen to this one day. But you know what? It's fine.
No, it's
It's
cool.
fine. Chris and Charlie, I do love you as human being people. I love you. You're great people. I'm
We
so
just
glad.
we just talked about this was a boundary about Shelley, not
Yeah,
about them.
yeah. But I thank you for bringing forth Alec into the world. He's the best. My mom reported that they were very concerned about how they were going to eat lunch. Like it was this whole big thing. Like, well, where do you eat? Where do you eat? How do you eat? And my mom was like lifting up the table. Like she has like, look, I'm sitting here and I lift, like she even demonstrated the table and was like, but she said they still sat with their plates on their laps. Like they still did it. And I was just like, and so honestly, I, now it's been a bit of time since all of this occurred and I have my official diagnosis now. Like a lot of things have changed since
Yeah.
that happened. But just knowing what my mom told me now about how they reacted about the area and me being thrown off with them showing up early, it is so, so, so
That's
very
like,
good that I just kept driving because I would have rocked in feeling all pleased with myself about this cool room I created and then had to defend it to people who wanted to know why I didn't have a traditional dining space.
yeah.
And
And
so,
so, and I love it. Like
yeah,
just saying, the
yeah,
some people will get it.
yeah,
It's okay if not everybody gets you.
yeah. And I said I was going to say something else, but I already forgot what it was. So, anyway, that was self
Making you face
care.
your own.
Mm,
I mean, that's what it was about, right? I
I
don't
don't know.
know. Maybe after we publish the podcast, we'll remember.
Yeah, when I'm editing, I'll like put it in here. I did remember the story I was going to tell. So I had mentioned China, which I did not want to register for. I had not found my voice really when I was 24 and registering for my wedding gifts and stuff. But anyway, I got talked into registering for China. And after the wedding, we had received one place setting out of 8. Um, Mind you, I ended up registering because my mother-in-law was like pretty insistent, and she said, "Don't worry, my family is going to buy it for you." And then I got one place setting. Anyway, so I returned the place setting after our honeymoon. And then about 3 weeks later, I got a delivery of 7 place settings. And they were from my husband's uncle, who did not attend our wedding because he was teaching in Hong Kong. He was overseas. And yeah, so then I had to go buy the place setting I had returned. And now I have 8 place settings of China that are packed up in a really fabulous container in my utility room. Like
Yeah.
a voiceover. I don't know. So that's some self care. I've gotten better at that. I
I
think
had
that's it. Yeah, I don't
like
know.
a small little list, but for me, like before I say, hey, these are the things I do, and show
Not
like
only
what
does
these
she have a
things
list,
do.
she has categories. I love it.
I think it's
I
important though that
aspire.
we accept the flexibility in this, the adaptability in this, and then it may need to change. Think of it as like you have a little toolbox and you make a little list or you have a little whatever, and you just pull something out. And if it suits you for that day or moment, it suits you. This isn't like an obligation. This is a, hey, I love myself and I'm feeling a little icky in this area. Maybe this will help that. Okay. These are some of the like core things for me. Primarily, it starts with like personal development, spiritual growth, my spiritual practice, which was previously non-existent, really. The types that have worked well for me are somatics and body work, attachment and relational based to help me through those.
Did you know
Um,
I didn't realize there were different types of therapy? Like that's how yeah.
this is when I realized that my special interest in psychology is not a
Yeah.
it's a special interest. By the way, if you spend a lot of time researching how to people,
You mean like getting an undergraduate degree in anthropology?
yeah, you might be autistic. Okay, anyhow, so attachment or relational based, interfamily systems, IFS, and nervous system regulation techniques are the ones that have served me well. I've also learned a lot about trauma therapy,
Writing down nervous system regulation
um,
techniques.
polyvagal theory. I've read a lot to help me process and understand myself and others around me better. But what I was doing was intellectualizing. Those types of therapies are what really kind of get out those feelings and allow you to grow as a human.
Okay. I do remember being told frequently in my sessions that I was into like, okay, those are your thoughts, you're intellectualizing. Let's talk about your feelings. And I would be like, yeah, but like when I feel, I go blib, and then it becomes this whole thought. So
We could do a whole episode
yeah,
on that.
thank you for bringing up the other things. I'm making a note of them on a piece of paper that
Um,
I promise I will not lose.
and then the big category of like support,
Okay.
your support systems. For me, it's also creative expression, of which this is something. This is a creative expression for me. Connection to my chosen loved ones, prioritizing my health and peace, and then sharing and giving back when I have the space and energy. One tenet of this is unplugging. For me, unplugging is something that I never really allowed for myself before, but really it's been a very intense need my whole life. I'm somewhat because of the emotional processing delays and trauma and being autistic, I I need more downtime and quiet time. Number one, so I'm not overstimulated, but number two, also because like there's processing delays. I need the literal time to like catch up.
Yeah, so when you say
And
unplugging, you're not just speaking strictly electronics. This is
yeah, I
disconnect
mean, like, from
a
everything, like,
conscious disconnect.
from obligations,
Okay.
from social engagement,
It's for all more
and it would
girl-minded
be
friends out there.
yeah, so when I burnt out, it was a crash and burn. Now I try to do that regularly, that I needed so much disconnected time. My daughter also requires this. And so to watch
Mine
an
too.
11-year-old do this because she has the encouragement of an adult that has learned how to manage this and do it intuitively and with respect and not, feel bad about it, it is a very it's it's a very validating thing
Hey,
to see
hey,
it work well.
remember all those nice things you said to me in episode 2?
Sure.
Yeah, you don't.
How
I see
about
that.
being a good mommy?
Well, yeah, well, what I want you I'm gonna pause and point out that you do it too.
Yeah, I do. I
Yeah,
try. It's probably one of my guiding forces in life.
and so I just now I'm taking a moment to point that out about you, and that's beautiful, and I hope you know how beautiful
Yeah,
that is, and
thank you.
how lucky she is to have you to be her mom, even on some days when she's like, "Ugh, you're so cringy.
Yeah,
Cringe."
and that's the truth. Like I'm cringy, but you know what?
I have a playlist
Okay.
named Cringe, so
Aha. Can we share that later?
I don't
I
you
would
know,
love
I
to
haven't
hear
put much in it. I need to go through and figure out all the ones
that
that are
more.
cringy. I
I can
probably
add.
deleted most of them. Anyway, carry on.
So this is like that inner that's that retreating from the world and stimulation, but also it's the time to do that inner work. I would say I was an emotionally stunted human because of the way I was raised, the way I was cultured, the line of work that I'm in, and also my nature, being autistic, being disabled, dealing with things that other people don't deal with, going through some of the life experiences that I've gone through. I was not given the opportunity to like develop the emotional side of myself understanding
Yeah,
until I was older. So I've spent a lot of
same.
time doing like that inner work, not just in therapy, but also like the self introspection, the understanding. In the spiritual world, you hear it called like shadow work, like understanding how you operate and why, and what parts of you want to change or embrace that you maybe weren't. I spend time journaling, not so much to like record anything for posterity, because frankly, nobody can read my handwriting, let alone myself later. It's mainly just about getting it out
That
because there is
physical
a processing
action.
delay. It's an expression and a release. So also like I
Thank you
need
for that. The one reason why I don't write is well, A, the terrible handwriting, although I did find some splints I'm gonna try. But because I can't read it after, I never thought there would be any value in it. But it
there
sounds
is.
like there might be
This is
for
my
me.
other life hack. Just get one. I literally bought like a case of these on Amazon. I'll link it for you if you want. They're just like little, I think they're called travel journals, and
Okay.
they're like, small, so you can kind of tuck them in a bag, or like I have one in my nightstand. I have, just wherever. And I just like I write out like things I've learned or I'm working on, or feelings I need to, I don't know, it just depends on the day or the moment. And one of the things that I had to do to kind of propel myself into feeling feelings was the physical practices, the body, the release stuff,
Okay.
and then incorporating that into like some self understanding was really difficult because I had such a disconnect.
Right.
So I did work with some intuitive practices that maybe are a little non mainstream. I've done like some meditation and
Remind me again, do you have aphantasia also?
yes.
So,
I just didn't realize it. I don't think it's as severe as some other people. It just takes a lot more effort.
okay.
And
I have like
I
black
think that's why
screen.
I'm such a good artist. Like,
Ooh.
yeah, it's funny. But
I just the
so
reason why I asked is because you've mentioned meditation and self and reflection and introspection, and a lot of times imagery is
it was
associated with
developing
that.
these things.
But
because I
I
didn't have the self-awareness or that I wasn't allowing myself time to process and understand, well, what happened here? Am I really understanding this correctly? I spent a lot of time, like we said, intellectualizing, but not, yeah. So when I say meditation, like I cannot just sit there and do the like whatever. So I have tried something called the Wim Hof method, which is a method of breath work, and it's
okay.
guided. Okay. So almost everything I do is guided. I cannot
Yeah.
do this alone.
There's a
And
hack for you. Find the people
yeah,
have already done the work out there. You don't have to try to
yes.
invent the wheel
There's various
yourself.
apps, there's free things, there's YouTube, there's all sorts of things.
There's TikTok creators out there who do
Yeah.
series or go live and do this stuff.
Yes. And as I was getting into this deep work, I was introduced to some spiritual practices, like I said, that aren't necessarily mainstream. So I got
Right.
into like things like astrology and tarot and like archetypes, Jungian type of archetypes and stuff like that. Better understanding like human stories, and
Okay.
then seeing where I could apply them to myself. So it was like I don't, I'm a, like astrology. I'm not impressed with you if you like know your big three, like your sun and your moon sign. If you follow this at all, it's okay
Okay.
if you
Yeah. I'm
don't.
like,
I'm
big three.
impressed if you use that to like do some self-reflection and be like, oh, like, is this how I do XYZ? And then you assess, like, well, how do I handle an emotion or whatever in your life? I don't know. And
You
so
know what's interesting about that is when you apply that view to astrology, it's not pseudo whatever.
it's not, it really isn't. The other thing that I do that is also controversial, and you should know that I was an evangelical born again Christian before I deconstructed that too. And before that, I was an atheist. So, anyhow, the otI thing that I did
I
was
am currently an atheist, and as long as I can remember forming a cogent thought on if I believed in God, I have not.
so
Show me
I
your book.
picked up
Oh, show me your
tarot,
cards.
and tarot was actually something that was quietly taught to me using playing cards by my grandmother. In our ethnic background, it's a common practice. Again, the point of tarot isn't that the cards are telling you something, it's that you see the card and it has an archetype in it, okay, right? Like it has some sort of image or symbolism, some sort of story culturally assigned to it, but how do you like where is that energy in you, where is that in your life right now? So again, it gives you, it's like a writing prompt, okay? It's
Yeah.
not a, you are the energy, the card isn't the energy, the stars aren't the energy, it's within you. So it gives you, it's just, so those like rules of astrology or those pictures on a card are putting into space where I struggle to put into space or images or thought the opportunity to do that inner work. That's a way to overcome things like emotional processing delays, disconnects like aphantasia, alexithymia, and stuff. Yeah.
So sorry, I interrupted you, but I was getting ready to like you made me think of something. Is
Is it
that
there still or did it leave?
no, it's there. I
Oh,
just
interrupt.
is that why I and this is just a pattern I've noticed, and so I don't know if there's any science or merit to it if it's been studied at all. But I'm big into like the nerdy comic book science, fantasy, Lord of the Ring. Like is there a are
Okay,
people is
so
there more
Lord of the
neurodivergent
Rings,
people?
Star Wars, those big, sweeping, dramatic sci-fi fantasies, Dune, they all speak in esoteric truths. I'm not going to go down a rat hole right now,
Yeah.
but they are telling these big stories of human experience that speak to the truth of who we are and why we're here.
Okay. I just was noticing like a lot of
They're just
people that
palatable.
tend to be like me. I would run into people like me at say like I've been to Dragon Con quite a few times. That's in Atlanta. My cousin lives down there. We do some cosplay, we go to some panels, we like nerd out, right? There's a lot of like-minded seemingly
So, in
neurodivergent
all
folks
fairness,
there, so I
like,
just
I
did
get
you know.
it, but I
Yeah,
don't get I only one time I accidentally was on the fringes of a Comic-Con because I was at a healthcare conference,
okay.
and we were the same, uh,
Yeah, if you don't it can
hotel
be
complex as
yeah, it
a
can
very large Comic-Con,
yeah,
and I'm not gonna lie, I was a little terrified of those people,
yeah.
and also that is the Comic-Con that Lou Ferrigno hit on me in the elevator, and I didn't take him up because whatever, but so maybe I was just put off by that, but like I may be on the fringes in some things, and I love sci-fi,
Right.
but like I think that's how I know how autistic I am. That terrified me. Like I would never have been able to go in that room.
Mm. Oh, I know why I could do it. I was drunk.
So
Yep.
speaking of coping skills that maybe aren't healthy coping skills, let's substitute things like drinking and things that numb things for healthy coping skills. That's really what self-care is. It's how do you deal with the shit of life in a healthy way? How do you process it? How do you love yourself through it? So, like, I talk about the me time thing, being away from the overstimulation. Uh, I'll take a bath to soothe the pain. I spend time reading. I used to read a lot. Like, I was I was hyperlexic. I read very early. I spoke very early. I was a very precocious child. I finished my elementary school's library. I read early. But then I stopped. I stopped reading. It was no longer something I could even focus on. Now I really generally only read for like, not for quote pleasure.
I haven't been able to read really. I switched to audiobooks for a while and
So
then I couldn't
yeah.
even do the audiobooks after I
So I do
finished grad school.
audiobooks and podcasts, but generally I just listen to nonfiction and things that are within my special interests. I I don't even really watch like entertainment television or so that is something like for me, I think it was a numbing behavior. It was like alcohol for me. It was
Okay.
a way to disconnect. And now I can't even focus on it. And I wish I could because I would love to enjoy like sitting there, watch a movie with my family or whatever. So on the flip of that, now I also focus on this is almost even harder for me plugging in. So the inverse of that. So like connection.
Okay.
And I have, some things again in my nature that preclude me from connecting with others easily. Autism, trauma, fun stuff. So like I work on sharing my creative expression and now my health experience. This gives me life. Like that's why we do this, why we share on TikTok. I'm
Yep.
speaking for Shelly and I'm both of us. That's part of our connection thing, connecting with you all. I love to learn about things that I care about, my quote special interests related to healing, trauma, psychology, neurology, anything EDS. But I try to do it with a balance, like I said. And then conservation, like who I choose to share my light with, my
Yep.
time, my energy. I try to only share it with people that match my energy. I have a small group of friends. I don't have intense connection with certain family members anymore. I allow myself the challenge to reorient to new friends now that are more understanding. And that was a big thing for me. It was a lot easier for me to just shut down and not connect with anyone. Now I am trying to like find my people, right?
Yep.
The other part of this is outside of the cerebral stuff to do with your body. I try to find ways to love my body, even though a lot of times it doesn't seem to love me back.
Yeah.
With something that feels either empowering or calming. Like I like to try to feel strong again. I'm not quite where I was, but I spent many years seriously weightlifting. I coupled that with water aerobics, and that was the strongest I had felt since like my whole life. Even when I was an athlete, I still didn't feel strong because I was injured all the time. Now I know why. That's very much recommended for EDS people. Right now, since the pandemic, that I didn't have access to a pool, and now it's a struggle financially. So we go swimming in the river. that meets two needs. It's both the water
Yep.
exercise, but
And
it's also
nature.
a cold river. Cold water exposure is part of that Wim Hof method that I meant referenced that combines breath work, meditation, and cold exposure. Nature walks. What Shelley was talking about, grounding, being outside, being in nature. I love going on hikes. I love going away from this city to where I can't, see the traffic. I can't, I don't know, hear the sirens I hear right now. Like where it's just the woods. I can touch the dirt. I can sweat. I can see the beautiful butterflies and the flowers. And I am like a little child. I collect all the interesting little things. There's other ways that I love my body too that maybe I didn't do before to such an extent when I was more able-bodied. And I realize I've kind of transposed it into things I can do now. I am obsessed with makeup. I have a makeup hoard, a makeup collection. I put on makeup most every day of my life. Even if it's like a no makeup look and you think I maybe don't have makeup on, I have makeup on. And I realize like in a way
Really?
it's oh, pretty much. Not every day. Like you've seen me without makeup, but
Okay,
like there's I pretty much I have to force myself to take days off because I've come to use it as not only is it a mask to like make me feel better about like how I look because I look much sicker than I appear without makeup.
yeah.
But I found out how much it gave me back the joy of creative expression. I told you I, wasn't painting or creating
Yeah.
artwork anymore. And it was a way of like doing that, incorporating that into my everyday life. And then another one that like is empowering and like connects you to your body is intimacy. Like, and I don't mean just that kind of intimacy. I mean all
Right.
those kinds. Like I actually take time out and I call it cuddles. Like me and my daughter every night spend time before she goes to sleep, the same as we have since she was a baby, where I hold her and I cuddle her and I give her little forehead kisses and then I tuck her
Oh,
in. Like I take time out of my day to connect with those that like, I love. Now, of course, it is can be those other things too, but I generally mean true intimate connection, not just sexual type things.
right.
Those things can be both too. Not knocking that.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, non-romantic intimacy
yes,
is important too.
yes, yes. And connection is soothing too, to anybody and both parties.
It goes back to the not being alone in the world.
It is a method of nervous system regulation, which those of us with autonomic dysfunction need. Anyhow, the next idea is undoing things. What do I mean by undoing things? Undoing the things that maybe you did or someone else did or situationally that just aren't helpful. For me, it was facing trauma, family issues, any of those things no longer serving you, questioning outside systems and their place in my life and the world I see for my daughters. I talked
Yeah.
about deconstructing religion. That's one of those things. The next thing is not undoing, but doing. What are you doing? What are you putting your energy towards that gives your life meaning, that contributes to the world in a way that you want to? So seeking like meaning and growth, redefining myself in the light of disability and trauma. What is my legacy? Like what am I doing today that like with my energy, no matter how much energy I have, and it's okay if I didn't really do anything today.
Yep.
But when I
That
have
that is
energy,
a
what am I
hard
putting
that is
in?
a hard lesson to learn.
Yes, because like Shelley said, we were defining ourselves and what we were giving back. We were both doing volunteer work, and I was doing that as well. The next thing is thinking beyond just right now. So thinking about tomorrow, how am I going to make tomorrow Luna happy? It includes things like planning ahead, prepping for the day, the meals, clothes, packing the bags for soccer practice, school, taking care of my body so I'm healthy, keeping up on my medicine, my vitamins, allowing myself to rest. And then my last and best hacking hypermobility hack for self accommodation, self care is I eat chocolate every single day. I account
Okay.
for the calories, but I love chocolate and I'm not giving it up.
Hell no, I like that.
It's one of those happy things. Okay. So like you don't have to eat chocolate every day. I'm not telling you to do that. But if there's something in your life, no matter how little that makes you happy, do it. Okay. That was a lot.
That was a lot,
Shall we?
but that's
Do you have
great.
any ideas I didn't like bring up?
Okay, well, I do have a few hacks that you didn't mention, and there's a big reason why you didn't mention one of them.
Could it have to do with my gainful employment?
It did. And it actually interfered. I abstained for a long time because of my gainful employment. And this is not to say that if you partake in cannabis as a medical or recreational endeavor, that you, oh my God, I forgot the word I was going to say. We were talking about upstanding. Oh, gainful employment. The reason why we're just saying gainful employment is because there's restrictions based on our job. I do
Some of
not
us
believe.
cannot partake in that
Correct.
for reasons
Reasons.
legally or where we live
Yeah.
or the fact of the nature of our jobs. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So, anyway, one of the things that I would say is a hack is when you talked about honoring yourself and thinking critically why you're doing things, one of the things that I was doing was just listening to what doctor said all the time. Take these vitamins, take this ibuprofen, do this, do that, you'll feel better. And I never did. And so I
By
ended
the
up,
way, you
yeah.
cannot live on ibuprofen. You will destroy your liver. Anyhow, go ahead.
Yeah, well, that's just it. And so I had some blood work come back, like my liver enzymes would be doing weird, like it was affecting my body. And so another, so as far as like pain management goes, like my options were becoming limited because I was doing damage to my body by trying to make my body feel better.
Yeah.
Well,
And that's common. Most of the pharmaceutical interventions have, even those that are non-narcotic pain
right.
interventions, if they're pharmaceuticals, have other effects that, in my experience, have not outweighed the benefits. I do not take pharmaceutical pain medications. I manage pain in other ways that
Yeah.
don't fully manage, to be honest. Yeah.
Yep. In that same vein, I don't really take pharmaceutical pain level medication either. I can't remember if we mentioned it in a previous episode or not, but I'm not quiet about it. My sister is in recovery. She's been in recovery for 9 years from opioids. She almost, it was not good for a long time. I also had genetic testing done and things that I've learned in addition to the actual experience of watching what my sister went through, is that my genetics also indicate that I am highly prone to be an addict when it comes to an opioid type
Mhm.
medication. I don't want it. I don't want it. And so I was getting to the point, well, okay, well, I can't take
This
over the
is
counter.
non-opioid stand podcast.
Yeah.
We're going to actively stand against opioids. Just to
Yes.
say that right now. Yeah.
Yes. So what's left for me, right?
Right.
Well, fortunately, I live in Maryland, and well, the dispensaries didn't open until 2017. I think it's 2013 is when legislation the legislation started passing, I think. But I got my medical card in 2020
For
uh,
mm,
for cannabis. I
yeah.
have a medical cannabis card. I had been using cannabis prior to, technically illegally. I'm of the belief it should not be illegal, federally or otherwise, regardless of its use. But I also avoided it. I worked for the federal government for a number of years and I didn't use it. I I think my drinking got really, really bad during that time too for multiple reasons, but I think like, some of that pain you can't do this, so something's got to give, right? That has been, in addition to opening my mind to the problem that I had with alcohol, it has also opened my mind to, as we discussed earlier, that you brought up, a more holistic approach to my care. And So that's my biggest hack right there is if your body can tolerate it and you have access legally, I'd say look into it. You don't have to if the idea of smoking freaks you out, you don't have to smoke it. I ingest it in a variety of ways, and that's because in addition to finding out I was genetically predisposed to be an opioid addict, I also don't process my body does not always process medications or foods or things in a timely manner. And so there are edibles, and sometimes they hit me in 2 hours, and sometimes they don't hit me at all, and sometimes they last for 12 hours, and sometimes it lasts for an hour. So I cannot rely on edible dosing to reliably manage my pain. So what I
And
do
it is not unusual for
oh,
connective tissue disorder patients to have problems
yes,
metabolizing
yes,
medication, pain
yep,
medications, etc.
yep, yes. So that is a frequent, yes, slow gut motility and just also anything, also just through your liver
Neurological
and
differences.
yep, yeah. So that is something I've had to struggle with. So I do, even though I don't want to be like, yay, smoking, I do actually inhale and I get the purest distillate resin, like I get the best quality I can get, but I also dry vape the flower itself because then I can use what's left over to process items. And then I also make my own topicals with coconut oil, which you can ingest but also make into lotions and balms and salves. I've made tinctures. And so that has been, I, I had mentioned previously that I had been being treated for inflammatory arthritis, which I do not have. And I had been taking hydroxychloroquine, sulfasalazine, all of these things that if they provided any relief to me, it was minimal at best, but that required me to get regular blood work and more frequent eye checks because I already am at risk with my eyes. So I had to get my eyes checked more frequently. I had to get blood work done to make sure that my liver and my kidneys and everything weren't becoming angry at these medications, right? Which, by the way, again, I was taking for a condition I do not have. And once I got my medical card and began adding that to my care routine, I slept better, my bowels were better, my skin looks better. I don't take the prescriptions anymore that I was taking. Now I still take some prescriptions, but I don't take those.
I would like to point out if some states don't allow THC, but some states allow CBD.
And
I am
also
in
the
a
hemp
state,
CBD is
yeah,
okay.
so
Yeah.
hemp-based products. So I am in a state where we can purchase some of those things. And once I was able to try topical CBD, uh, I was mind blown.
Yeah. You have so
There is a
many
difference.
endocannabinoid receptors in your
Yeah.
skin. And so that's why
Um, yeah.
CBD topicals can work
Yeah.
so effectively. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm glad you tried it.
I have met with a, pediatric pain specialist, and basically their answer is if you have a child that's in severe chronic pain, try it. There is no research. There's never going to be research because no one's ever going to volunteer their child to be studied on a
No.
plant-based medicine. We only allow children to be studied, with pharmaceuticals. Anyhow, so that's the point. But, you know, they said it's not hurting her and it's better than the other options we have.
Yep.
So I do use that on a child, by the way. Um, and it's, you know, topical pain management. There's some other choices, and we use them in combination with some other things like arnica, Voltaren as well. But that tends to be one of the more effective options. Just saying.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's really the only thing to say. I mean, I think about future Shelley a lot and like what future Shelley would want, but present day Shelley is struggling.
We can
basically,
always be planning for tomorrow.
yeah, and so what I'm doing now, instead of like present Shelley knows future Shelley wants some things, and that's fine. But present Shelley also knows that future Shelley is wants to cut present Shelley some slack. And so I'm getting
Mhm.
better at that. So one thing that all people would say to me all the time, and I didn't realize how much I actually needed to, was to cut myself some slack. I've never done that. I've been my own worst critic, hardest on myself. Outwardly, I'm, the best ever. And inwardly, I'm like, I gotta get my shit together. Like, you know. Meanwhile, everybody's
Yeah,
like,
I know.
wow, yeah, It's anyway, so
Give yourself a little grace.
yeah.
I think that is the last hack,
Yep, that's it.
maybe one of the more important ones. What did
Yeah.
I say? We are not broken on the inside. Give yourself a little grace.
I can't believe you didn't ask me about this shirt.
Oh, what what is going on?
I saw you looking at it earlier. You're like, "What?" Because I'm
How
not a
did you
dog
know I wasn't just
person.
looking at your boobies?
Oh, well, I mean, those are nice too, but anyway,
Jokes,
this
bad jokes. Is that a bear?
this
What is it?
it is not a bear. This is Ghostbusters. No Dana, only Zool. Must come on. My my friend Ben is an artist and designed this. This design is called Must Love Dogs. Okay.
That's
All
great.
right.
Should we does he still sell those or does he just
I have to check in with him. I've had this shirt for a number of years. He also designed my bird tattoo that I have on my back. So
oh,
yeah. I'll reach out to I know he's on Instagram. So I'll
no
find out.
Dana.
I'll put his info in there. But yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Anyway,
No Dana.
what my goal I've told I don't know if you guys have noticed, I like my nerdy t-shirts. So I'm going to try for every episode have some kind of fun t-shirt that we can discuss briefly or
Um,
at length depending on the
I
topic
have
of the shirt.
two fun t-shirts, maybe.
Oh.
That's not me.
Yeah,
It's never
well,
been.
yeah.
I just assumed to not be perceived.
Okay. This is a perception that I'm fine with.
I know. And
Because either you
it's funny. It's funny that I had to have it explained to me. I think maybe if I could see it, I would.
do you remember explaining to me that masking wasn't about masking? Okay.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And
We
I mean,
all
I watched Ghostbusters a few times. It was not computing. It was out of context.
it's yeah. I mean it's a little bit of a dated reference. It's,
I mean, what year was that? I mean, I don't know. I saw it in the theater, so
the same.
anyhow. Okay.
So what's next?
I don't know.
Do
I
we know
think
what
that
episode 4 is? Like, are we thinking ahead? We gotta do our closing. We didn't even wrap up. Are we done? Are we done with the hacks?
yeah, I think we went through the
Oh,
hack pretty well,
okay.
right? I mean,
All right.
I
Yeah.
mean, are you good? Do you have any other ideas? I think we've probably exhausted everybody, but that's a good place for everybody to start.
Yeah. All right. We're close it out. Close out. Psh, psh, we're done.
Okay. So thank you for listening again to the Hacking Hypermobility podcast.
And I'm going to say this time, but one time I'm going to make Luna tell you that if you like what you've heard so far, take a few minutes to give us a like, a comment, and a review. And please share it and tell people because we're starting to get a little bit of traction. And
So
it's
good.
not, we want just to be, we're energized by your interactions with us. So, like, if you're listening, like, let us know. And you can find the show notes and links to all of our socials out there at hackinghypermobility.com.
Yeah, and really it does matter if you leave a rating however you listen or watch because that brings in more views and I don't necessarily care about the count of views or you know, the
Yeah.
fact that we're getting interaction. What I care about is that we're spreading the message and I think um you should know that's our mission, to
Yeah.
bring awareness, but also to bring some practical applications on how to cope with all this. And so if you can help grow our podcast, we can help bring awareness to more people. So thank you guys so much if you take the time to do that. Here's wishing you healthy hypermobility. Have a great day, zebras.
Bye.